Hello everybody. In this episode I am showing how to get a project from your editor to Davinci Resolve, but in this one in particular, in this episode, I am showing how to get a project that has different effects involved in the actual project in the editing process. Because one thing that Davinci Resolve does not understand is things like After Effects projects or 3D Studio Max or Maya projects, or things that you use to do effects will not read inside of Davinci Resolve as a project file. You need to export them out into movie files. In this episode, I'm showing specifically how to do this in Premiere. This is a very similar process if you're using Avid or Final Cut Pro. If you're including effects and you're sending clips out to create effects inside of something like After Effects or another effect program, you're going to have to export those files out and bring them back into your editor and export them out as part of your EDL. Now, if you're using stuff like 4K footage or 5K footage, you want to maintain the quality of your files that you are using for the effects. In this project here, we've got a what's called a visual lock of a project here. It's ready to be sent off for effects. Several of these clips here will be will be processed into effects, like this shot right here. This guy is like reaching up and touching like this invisible little digital screen here that's going to be showing up. So there's several of these effects that are going to be part of this project. And on other episodes, After Effects episodes I show how to take a clip from Premiere into After Effects and kind of round trip them back to Premiere using this method, where in Premiere, at least, if, like I said, if you're in Avid or Final Cut, you're going to have to export out your individual clip or a time-coded version of this clip if to an effects artist, or if you're doing them yourself to something like After Effects, so they know exactly what duration of clip that you need. With Premiere, it's quite easy. You can Alt, drag the clip upwards, and that creates a duplicate clip. This is just a method I use that I like. Then you right click on this clip and replace it with an After Effects composition. And then this top clip, I do that so I leave the bottom one alone in case I need to reference this bottom original clip for some reason, because once it's replaced with an After Effects composition, that clip has disappeared in your timeline. So I'm going to go to, I've got a timeline here that this has been done. All the effects for this project has been done. And these are all these effect clips are saved to one After Effects project file. They're just different compositions, basically different timelines, different compositions within After Effects, within that one project file that's in After Effects. So what I'm going to do here, the process that you need to do is you need to send each one of these clips to a movie file, to basically like a QuickTime movie file, or in this instance, or an H.264 will work as well. If you're going to be sending them to Resolve, they need to be files that are compatible with the Resolve, and they need to be flattened movie files. The one type that I'm going to show, since I'm on a PC here, one that works really well with 4K footage, that has really good compression, data, and is very efficient to work with within Resolve and Premiere, is the Avid Format. And they've finally kind of opened up the Avid Format for PC and Mac users to use, where it's almost close, pretty dang close to ProRes. If you're working on a Mac, one of the best formats to export out to is ProRes. You can do, and if you're using raw data, if you're using things like Red footage or Alexa footage or Canon RAW footage, one thing that you might want to do is export out your ProRes clips matching your resolution, but using 444. Those the Apple ProRes 444 are going to be incredibly huge files, and it's kind of similar with the Avid codec, but they've kind of called the Avid codec the equivalent of ProRes for PC, and it works quite well. What I've got here, a couple things. If you Google, first of all, I'm going to just type in Google, go Avid codec, and you type in 2.37. This is one of the more later releases. They've got a 2.39 now, I think, but it's they've taken away some of the codecs from it, from the more professional codecs. I'm not sure why. I hope they're not going to continue doing that. I hope they keep releasing. You can purchase their professional codecs as well, but right now the free ones include some 4K footage, or some 4K formats now, which is really, really nice. But you have to install this up. Premiere comes packaged with some Avid codecs. They're called DNX files. Those codecs are pre-built into Premiere automatically, but they have very limited ones, and they only go up to 1920 by 1080. So if you want 2K and 4K, you're going to have to grab those off of their website and install it into your QuickTime engine. And right here you've got a download for Mac and a download for Windows. And like I said, this is a really nice codec. It's very quick and efficient. It edits really well, edits really smoothly, and it also grades really well inside of Davinci Resolve, and it uses QuickTime as its engine. So you have to have, if you're on a PC, you have to have QuickTime installed. If you're on a Mac, QuickTime is already installed. So just make sure your QuickTime is installed and updated, and then install your Windows version here or your Mac version if you're on a Mac. And it will include a whole bunch of different formats down here. In fact, if we go to Premiere, and I want to export this project, let's do Control M and show you the things that it brings up here. Over here on the side, you have to pull this down. If you're already under like H.264 or something, you're going to have to go up and switch this to DNX HR, which is the Avid codec, HR and HD. And then it will bring up these presets down here. You pull this down, and if you've installed this, you will have a huge list of different formats you can use to export Avid. Some of the differences here, you've got HQX, you've got HQ. HQX is one of the highest qualities. Actually, 444 is the highest quality here. If you're trying to match red footage, you probably really want to export your effect clips out into 444. Up here, we've got LB, which is the lowest quality. You've got HQX, and then HQ, which are similar data rates but different bit depth, and you have SQ, which is kind of a standard quality. And if you want to see the data rates on these things, you can Google it. In fact, it's kind of weird the way you have to type in. You have to type in, actually I type in Avid codec bandwidth. They call it bandwidth, I call it data rate. Most people call it data rate, but they've got their own word for it called bandwidth, which is very accurate here. You click on this first one here and it brings up this article or this chart showing the different data rates for different resolutions. 1920 by 1080, you have about 182 megabits per second is what that equates to, which is pretty high quality. That's if you're shooting in red like 12:1, you normally have around like 200 megabits per second, I believe. So this is barely lossless for red footage. If you have, but if you actually, I shouldn't say barely lossless because it's 1920 by 1080. If you go up to 4K footage, oh geez, that's huge. 777 megabits. That is lossless for red footage for most types of red footage right there. So you might even get away with just using one of these lower quality ones, like I hate to say lower quality because these are really nice quality, the DNR 4K footage, which is 388 megabits per second, so it is still really high quality footage. You go down to the lowest one and you get around 80 megabits per second. This is really good to export your DSLR footage to with your effects, because look at that, that is basically lossless. That is basically lossless. The 70 megabits per second is pretty lossless for DSLR footage. So once you've installed that on your computer, you'll have that. Like I said, if you're on a Mac, you probably want to export to ProRes 444. If you're on a PC, I would recommend, because ProRes supports above 4K footage, and this is actually, my footage here is above 4K, it's almost 5K footage, and Avid won't support this. You have to do under 4096 and less is all that these codecs support right now, unless you want to buy the professional formats, and those ones are not free. By the way, the version of Davinci Resolve that I'm using here is a free version. This is just Davinci Resolve 12. If you buy the Studio version, Davinci Resolve Studio, that works with their hardware and you're buying all their hardware, that one costs money. Or if you buy some of their hardware, you'll get a dongle for free. I love that word, they call it dongle. Anyway, yeah, you get a dongle for free, and to operate the Davinci Resolve Studio. You can install it as many systems as you want, and you have to have your dongle your USB key to basically activate it. So, and you can have it on as many systems as you want. You just move the USB key from system to system. But Davinci Resolve 12 is free, and it's a great software. It's the best in the industry as far as color correction is concerned. Really, really nice coloring software. All right, so now we are in Premiere. Let's get moving on this and show you how to get your project to Resolve. First of all, there are a couple things that Resolve Resolve will not understand within your editor. I'm going to select a clip here. Forget about these effects right now, but let's just select a clip here. Let's go up to Effect Controls, and you pull down your Motion tab here under Premiere. Some things that Resolve will understand is if you do changes to these basic items: position, scale, rotation. That's about it. Will in some instances do time remapping as well. If it's a constant speed, you change it from 100 to 90, it will understand that. If you're doing time remapping where you're changing speeds over the duration of a clip with ramping and things like that, it will not understand that. Basic speed it will understand, opacity it will understand, scale, rotation, position, that's about it. And it will not understand animation either. If you try to do inside of Premiere, you try to do animation, it will not understand that. And you're going to have to export that clip out and flatten it as a movie file with the effects applied and bring it back in. This process that we're going to do here, we'll do that to the After Effects. There is one clip here that we have zoomed up here. This clip here, if we go up to Motion, has been zoomed up to 132% there, and I've got this flagged with a marker right there, and I've got another marker down here to show that there's another effect. I just want to make sure that these things move across. And some other things that Resolve won't understand are effects. Things like, well, let's select this one I have flagged as well. Right there, this has a warp stabilizer from Premiere. So this is actually going to have to be flattened as its own individual clip as well, because it has a warp stabilizer on there. Editors should be conscious of this. If they're sending this to a colorist, they need to let them know what sort of effects are on these things, so those actually translate over to the coloring software. Some other things that aren't understood by Resolve are going to be things like this. Generators, what are called generators inside of Premiere or other editors. This is a black video clip right here that's been generated. That is not an actual video clip. This is generated within the software. Things like titles, it won't understand. You're going to have to do titles as a separate, that's like a whole different realm I'm not going to be covering in this episode. To send titles over to Resolve, you're going to have to use things like Targa sequences that recognize an alpha channel. There are other options there as well, but I'm not going to be getting into that. But just be it known that things like generators, things like color bars, things like black video and color mats and other things will not be recognized in Resolve. So everything in here has to be basically movie files or audio files as well. Movie files is what it understands: H.264, QuickTime, MXF, a whole bunch of different types of formats of movie files, AVIs, but these things have to be flattened to those things, and it will not understand effects applied inside of editing software like color correctors, blur, other little effects and filters. Let's go through the After Effects stuff here first. I'm going to right click on this and say Edit Original. This is going to open up that project inside of After Effects, and it will bring open that composition right there. Here's the effect that's been done. It's this little, let's put this at quarter resolution. We scroll through it, has this little screen thing going that is touching and swiping and all that stuff. But we need to export this. All these files here need to be exported out. So the way I recommend doing this in Premiere, from Premiere to After Effects, is we're going to select this one shot right here. I'm going to go to Composition, and I'm going to add this to the Media Encoder. Okay, now that this has been added to Media Encoder here, I'm going to want to choose, since I'm on a PC, I'm going to choose to work with the Avid codec here. So I'm going to pull this down, select the DNX, which I've done, and I'm going to click on this one as well, right there. I'm going to click on that codec. This is 1920 by 1080. There's that default that I brought open. I'm going to open this up and look at the video footage here. But now I also want to keep this at 4K, so I'm going to pull this down. Actually, like I said, my video footage is actually around 5K. I'm going to click on this preset, scroll down, but I'm not going to be able to go to 5K because this Avid codec only supports up to 4K, which works just fine for my color correction, because my final delivery is going to be 2K delivery, so that's fine. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to go down to DNX 4K 444. I'm going to keep this all high quality, 444 4K 23.976, which is to match my frame right there. But notice that this has bars on the outside. That's because this is a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio here, a little wider aspect ratio than the format that I'm working in. So I'm going to go down to my calculator, and we're going to figure out what that resolution there, what the aspect ratio of that resolution is. 4096 by 2160. 4096 divided by 2160 equals a 1.89. Sorry, I was saying 1.85. 1.89 to 1 aspect ratio is basically what that is. That's kind of more of a cinema aspect ratio. So if we go back to here, this is actually 16 by 9. This and the resolution on this file here, if we go to Premiere, look at the resolution here, this is 4800 by 2700. Let's see what that aspect ratio is. 4800 by 2700 equals 1.77. 1.78 to 1 is basically 16 by 9. So this is more of an internet sort of aspect ratio as opposed to a cinematic aspect ratio, which they do have that in their settings here. If we pull this down and scroll down, they do have most of I'm not going to be able to match resolution, but I am going to match, in the very least, I'm going to get it 4K. Even though my footage is about 5K, I'm going to get it 4K, and I'm going to get it so the aspect ratio matches. So I'm going to go down to my 444 files. Once again, I say if you're working with red footage, if you're working with DSLR 1920 by 1080, you can stick with the 1920 by 1080 res, and just make sure you match the aspect ratio. But here I'm going to choose, instead of this, we're going to go down to UHD. UHD is actually ultra high definition. Ultra high definition is considered almost 4K. It's 3840 by 2160, and look, it gets rid of those bars. It matches matches, that's going to be good. So like I said, it's not maintaining the full resolution, but this is a free codec, so it's very nice to use. And if you're exporting out to 4K to put on YouTube, this works really, really well. So I'm going to hit OK because there's very few movie. This is the highest resolution that most movie theaters project in these days. Most of them project in 2K, but some of them these days will do it in 4K. It's right around 3,800 pixels that it's projecting in. So I've got that added here. What I really want to do here also is I want to get rid of my audio because I'm not using audio on these shots. It'll just add data that I don't need. I can go and save this. I'm going to call this we'll call this UHD for I'll call this this is the 2050 project, so UHD for 2050. So those settings I'm going to save for this specific project, hit OK, and that first shot has been added. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add each one of these files to that project, to this queue to export out. So I'm going to go back to After Effects, or actually Premiere. You can go through clip by clip if you want to. I've got all my compositions in here. As I've just got them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all right here. I've sent one project file over. So I'm going to double click on the next one, and I'm going to add this to Media Encoder as well. So now I'm going to add this composition to it as well. Go to Add to Media Encoder, and it's added it to Media Encoder. Notice it has added the same settings based off my previous settings. So I'm going to add all my effects to this export window, then I will come back. Okay, now that these have all been added for my project, there's a few other things that I need to take care of in Premiere. Here, let's go back to Premiere. Like I mentioned, if you're going to use black video, you're going to want to export out a video clip. You can generate your own black video in Resolve if you wish, but if you just want to generate some black video and use it, that's fine. You need to export that out as a video, bring it back in and have it edited here, and that's it. So this video here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export it directly out of my timeline. So I'm going to hit Endpoint, jump down to the first frame here of my first video clip, arrow 1 to the left, because that is the duration of my black video there. Went to the end of my black video. Let's bring that over to the side. I'm going to bring this out point here. I've got an in point at the beginning and out point right here, but the out point is actually the first frame of this video. So I need to arrow back one frame, out point, hit O, and that is the entire out clip right there. And now I'm going to hit Control M and bring open the window here to export. And from here I'm going to have to choose the same thing. Let's see, I'm going to use my DNX. And actually my preset should be saved. Here I'm going to click and tell it to use my UHD for 2050 there. And that's the same preset. I'm going to call this black. I'm going to click on this, name it black video, and I'm going to find a location where I'm going to be sending all these things. I am going to go to my project here, 2050 project, go under all my film stuff. Here's all my film stuff. I'm going to go under MXF effect shots. This is where I'm going to be saving these. I've already done all these, but this is where I'm going to be saving the location right there. And I'm going to call it black video, and it's saved, and I'm going to queue it to my media encoder. So I've got all my effects in here added from After Effects. I've got my black video there as well, and I'm going to go back into Premiere. I'm going to get rid of my in and out points. On a Mac it is Option X, and on a PC it's Control Alt X. Control Shift X gets rid of your in and out points, resets them, and I'm going to go to those marker points here and export out the videos that I need to have exported. Like this is a zoom, and actually this will translate over to Davinci Resolve just fine. So that zoom and positioning, I've zoomed it and repositioned it here, and that should translate over. We'll test that one to see if that works. But there's one other here. Got one other clip marked here, and this is the one with the warp stabilizer on it. So this one has an effect on it. Resolve will not understand it like it does positioning and scaling, so I'm going to export this one. I'm going to arrow up, land at the beginning of the clip, endpoint, arrow down. It lands on the first frame of the next clip, so I have to arrow back one. It looks like it's one frame back, but that is actually the end of the frame right there. That's the way you have to do it. And now I'm on this previous clip here. It's not resetting there. But that is the other one that I'm going to export here. So I'm going to hit Control M. I'm going to choose my 2050, that's fine, and I'm going to click on this, and we're going to save that as my warp. I'll call this second marker so I know where it's at, warp stabilizer. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to queue it, and it's now queued it, and it will queue that into the media encoder. There it is. And now what I want to do is, I notice that it's been putting these in these kind of After Effects folders here. I want to change all my folder locations to make sure they're all the same. All these settings are the same. They're exactly how I need them. I'm going to click Control A, select them all, and just go up and click on one of these names here and just change the folder location. I'm going to go to Film, MXF Effect Shots. I'm going to hit Select Folder, and all the folder locations has now been changed to that folder, and I can go up here and click play and it will start encoding. These ones I've already done, so I'm just going to move on to the next step. So now you click play on this, it will start encoding, and then we'll come back and show you the next step after these are through encoding. All of my encoding has now been finished. I'm now going to bring that folder into Premiere. I'm going to find my MXF shots right there. Open that up, and I'll see all my MXF shots right in there. And there's my second marker work, my black video. All the video files have been flattened into these MXF files. So now I can just grab this full folder, drag it into Premiere. Once that's done, what I'm going to have to do is make another timeline here, and I've already done that. You can right click on a timeline and say duplicate. And I've already duplicated it, and I've renamed this one Resolve. It's basically a duplicate of this one here. I want to maintain this in case I need to reference those effects, because here I'm going to prepare this timeline now for Resolve. This is my timeline. Like I said, this is my timeline for Resolve right here. So I'm going to go into my MXF shots, grab my black video. I'm going to drag it and replace my black video with my generated video file. This has now created an individual actual video clip here that's referencing. It's no longer a generator. And now I go down to the next one. Here is my first clip right there. I need to replace my open shot. I'm going to drag that over. My snap is not turned on. Let's turn that on and snap that onto this right here, and I can actually select this, Alt arrow down, and move it down. So I'm basically replacing all these effect shots. And notice this is a little bit of a resolution loss. If you're in Premiere, you can right click and just say scale to frame size to fit it. But that is, these effect shots have lost about 1,000 pixels of resolution, which is fine because this is actually displaying in 2K in the end, so that's not a huge loss at all. And if you are going to do that, you might need to do that on a Mac and do ProRes, because ProRes supports that. And actually H.264 does as well these days. You just have to know the data rate that you're setting. 200 megabits per second thereabouts will do it. One thing that I failed to mention earlier, that you will want to, if you're doing red footage, or even DSLR footage, you're going to want to change your 8 bits per channel here, your project settings, to at least 16 bits per channel. You'll notice on 8 bits per channel, if you have like gradients and things, you'll see compression in it a lot of the times. So you want to change your bit depth to at least 16 bits per channel. If you're working red and you want to be safe, you want to maintain all the raw data, you're going to do 32 bits per channel float point, which is going to take a long time for it to export depending on your system and depending on the intensity of the effects that you're doing. But you're going to want to click that, hit OK, and make sure that's changed before you start sending them to the media encoder queue, which I did on this original project to maintain quality. So that is one thing I failed to mention, that you need to make sure if you're using After Effects, you need to do 16 bits per channel in the very least. 32 bits per channel at the most is going to keep maintaining everything. If you're doing something that's showing on a big screen, not a big movie screen, you absolutely want to keep everything at 32 bits per channel for very accurate and high quality color grading. But now that we're back here, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and replace each one of these clips right here. And this one is actually out of order, but I'm going to grab that one, replace it, Alt arrow it down, right click on that, scale to frame size, and kind of the same deal here for each one of these. Shadow, boom, right there. In fact, I can just replace all these, and then if you want to, you can do this all in one move. You can just right click on these, Alt arrow down, move them down, and right click and do scale to frame size. This really isn't that important, the scale to frame size. It just helps to visually tell that it's the same aspect ratio. And here is our position one. This one we're going to send over to, we didn't do an export for this, we're just going to see how that turns out. So I've got a bunch of these done. Let's move these ones down. Let's move these ones down, Alt arrow down, and here is our one that had the warp stabilizer on it. So I'm going to grab that one. That is our second marker right there. Drop that in, that's replaced. Right click on it and scale to frame size. Okay, everything's been replaced. Alt arrow down, right click and scale to frame size. And our last thing here is our black video. I put our black video, and this is actually, there we go. So we got our black video. So we've got everything all flattened. These are all individual movie files here, and they're all ready to go. And this is all ready to send to Resolve. So now that this is ready to send to Resolve, one thing that I also have received here is I've got a sound mix. I've been given a sound mix here. So I want to also add the sound mix to my project here. I'm going to grab my audio here. This starts at the beginning frame right there. So I'm going to go into Resolve and I'm going to paste this in here. And actually all I really have to do. So I'm going to get rid of the sound mix here. I'm going to paste in my sound mix there, and I've got my full-on sound mix from Resolve, or somebody mixed for me here with the music and everything. So this is now ready to send to Resolve. I've flattened all the video clips. I've got a sound mix. You can actually have a sound person just export, if they're doing it in Pro Tools or something, export out a flattened sound mix that you're going to take into Resolve and use. So now that that's finished, let's get this to Resolve. So that is in essence the process of getting it prepared for Resolve. So now I'm going to go to File, Export, and we're going to export this out to Final Cut Pro XML. And I'm just going to save this on my desktop right now. That's okay, all done. Now I can close Premiere. And actually, before I close Premiere, one other thing that I want to do is I want my sound mix exported out as well. So I'm gonna, if your sound artist delivers that, if your sound mixer delivers you a WAV file, you probably want to just do like a WAV, a stereo file or a mix or something like that. You can bring that into Resolve and use it to reference your audio as well. But I'm going to export my media here. I'm just going to go to, we're going to do a waveform audio. Wave at 48K works for this project. I'm going to find a location, and I'm going to actually put this in the same folder where all my media is going to be located for Resolve. So I'm going to go to 2055 to my film, and I've got all my footage that I need, all my raw footage right there, and I've got all my MXFFX shots right there. I have a different one that I have ProRes files, and this is all, this, and this is all I'm going to need for my color correction on my PC here. But I'm going to export out my wave as well. I'm going to hit save and save that location, export out my wave. This should be pretty quick. Okay, now that's done. One thing I'm also going to do here that I didn't mention is Resolve also understands cross dissolves. It doesn't understand things like these process wipes and things that Premiere does or other editors do, but it does understand a cross dissolve. So, and it also understands fade ins. I'm going to add a cross dissolve right here. Now we're just going to add one for the heck of it, just to show that it will understand. I'm going to add a cross dissolve right here, just to show that it does understand cross dissolves in Resolve. And let's go to the beginning. I'm going to do a fade in at the beginning, arrow this back one frame, trim that back one frame, and add a dissolve at the beginning right there. And let's go to the end and add a dissolve at the end as well. So it's got a fade in, fade out, and it's got that one right there. Let's go File, go to File, Export, Final Cut Pro XML. Put it in that same folder location, export, and done. So now I have those dissolves in there. Let's give that a try. So I'm going to start a new project here. And when we're color grading, you can start 1920 by 1080, but I already know the final codec that I'm going to here. This is going to be a 2K Ultra HD format here. Let's even say that let's color grade this in 4K. We're going to go down to the 16 by 9 Ultra HD codec here, which is the same one that a project has been edited in. Timeline frame rate is 23.97, square pixel aspect ratio, image processing 32-bit float point, matching the stuff that we did from After Effects. And video monitoring is just going to be in 1920 by 1080. It doesn't matter if you change frame rate there, that's going to work just fine. So I'm going to save that, and we can rename this if we wish. We can call this 2050 project. Hit OK, and double click on it to start it. Okay, first thing we're going to want to do is bring in our media, and that hard drive is not recognized up here, so we have to go under Davinci Resolve, go to Preferences, and add that location of that hard drive. I'm going to hit Add, find that hard drive, and I'm just going to add that folder so it finds just the footage that I need. I'm going to go under my 2055. I've got everything that I need under this film. There's my red footage, my MXF shots there. Just selecting this whole folder location and saving. It'll tell you have to restart Resolve to access the drive. That's fine. I'll hit Save, restart it, and that drive location will be saved inside of Resolve. There's my 2050 project. Open that up. I'm going to and there's that drive added right there. So under the Media tab, we're going to add the media we need. There's my wave. I'm going to need that. And I'm going to need all my red footage. I'm going to grab these two, right click, and add folders. Add folder and subfolders in the media pool. I'm not going to do the bins. I'm just going to add all the media here. So I just need to reference it right now. I'm not doing editing in this. And it's added all my footage there, and I'm going to go to my MXF shots, and I'm going to add the folder and subfolders into Media Pool. And there's everything I need. Oh, there's some extra footage in there that was on the card that I did not need. Oops. But anyway, I've got everything in here that I need now. I've got all my effects shots. I've got all my raw red footage. And now I can go to Edit, and I can import my EDL. I'm going to go up to Open File and say Import my EDL. Find that location. There's my EDL or XML file right there. Import it. I'm going to automatically set the project settings, and I'm not going to automatically import the source clips in the media pool. I've already done that, but I'm not going to use the sizing resolution either, because I'm going to automatically set the project settings here. Hit OK. And one thing I forgot to mention here is it's having issues here with the audio. Everything else is imported, is reconnected. It's just the audio was in my EDL from that sound mix, but I don't need that, so I'm just going to hit close, ignore that there, and I'm just going to get rid of all of my audio here. And I'm going to actually just lock my video here. I'm going to lock the video, hit Control A or Command A on a Mac to select everything, and hit delete, and it's deleted everything but that locked video track, which has all been reconnected. It just didn't reconnect my audio because I did not have my audio in my media pool, which I don't even want that, because I want a flattened WAV file so it doesn't slow down my system at all trying to play back all those clips. So I'm going to find my WAV file. There it is. Drag it, drop it in, and I am finished there with my timeline. So I've got my visuals in here. Here's my project playing back. There's my audio. So now I've got my visuals in here. I've got my audio down here, and I am ready to start color grading. I can hit Control S and save my project. Go to Color, go to my Color tab, and there it is. My project is ready for color grading. And I've got my other tutorials on how to do color grading within Resolve, but now I have my flatten files in there. You might want to play, but one thing we want to check here is, one thing I do want to make sure of here is I want to see if that clip, which was at 48 seconds, which was the zoom and repositioning right there, I want to make sure that that one actually did the zoom. It looks like it, but let's make sure. I'm going to go to Edit, and here it is. Let's go to our inspector. We've got that clip selected. Go to the inspector, and I can see, let's see here, that our zoom is at 1.3, so that's approximately right. That's just right, and the position has been rearranged. Because look, if you select another clip, this is at 1.0, and the position's at 0. I wish Premiere did this, but Premiere has weird coordinates on their positioning. But notice that's been offset from 0 and is no longer at 1 on the zoom. So this has that information did translate over and has done the zoom and repositioning for us. So that's one effect we did not have to do. So it understands the basics there. If we go to color now, we can start color grading this. We can start color grading these shots, just like you can any other shot, and we are ready to go. And there you go. So now, like I said, you can check out my other tutorials on Davinci Resolve, but that is in essence what it takes to get a project from an editor over to Resolve and getting it prepared for the colorist to take care of. Once again, you basically have to export any generators, any effects that you've added in Premiere or your editor, or any After Effects files have to be all flattened to individual movie files, whether they are ProRes 444 or a different type of codec depending on how high quality your footage is. If you're working 1920 by 1080 or 4K, that's basically what you have to do to get it prepared to send over to Resolve. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Welcome to the world of 2050. This is quite different than the world of 2015 when this book was written. Technology has come a long way and intersects our lives in many fascinating ways. One of these is the Cybermuse. These are self-aware robots who are designed specifically to interact with humans and inspire them. Have you done that for me, Mary?
I think so. Did I help with this book?
Tell the truth now. This was written long before you were created. This is just one example of what can be found in this book. I talk about cybermuses, wearables, driverless cars, and how all these are going to change how we humans live and think. That's the important part. At the core of this book is how our lives and our thinking will change. Let me give you an example. Mary, do you know how to drive a car?
No.
Do many teenagers of today know how to drive?
No.
Why not?
Why should they? Cars drive themselves, and nobody bothers to own them. They just make a call, get in, and the car takes them where they want to go. They think about cars as they do chairs.
The world of 2050 is so very different from the way we are in 2015. This kind of difference is the heart of what Visions of 2050 is about. This is a vision of our future, our real future. And if we understand where we are headed, we can plan for it today and in the year 2050. Find out more in Visions of 2050.